Hey everyone, I'm excited to announce version 2.3 of the Capsule Monster Coliseum Master Modifier. This version comes with a lot of different changes, and recently I've been getting questions of how to use the application. So I figured I'd create this video as an opportunity to walk you through many of the features that this modifier has to offer. Ordinarily, this started off as a simple randomizer and quickly grew into a large modifier. So let's get started. In this version, all the tabs start frozen until you load up a Capsule Monster Coliseum ISO. In my case, I'll be loading up a clean copy. To begin, I'm going to actually skip over the Randomizer tab. We'll come back to it later, but we're going to jump over to the Opponents tab, which is probably the most straightforward tab. At the top, we have the 5 different areas. In each tab of the areas is the 5 opponents in the area. Within each opponent, you can edit their symbol and the monsters in their lineups. For the symbol, unfortunately, you only can choose one attribute, health and effect power, even though there's 2 sides. We'll go a little bit more in depth with that in a second. So, the attribute's pretty straightforward. The health, or PP, is actually a new feature that I added in. And through testing, I discovered that the highest value you can reach is 9,999. Anything beyond that, it seems to just cut off numbers. And there's many maxes in this game that kind of works that way, where it uses 2 bits but doesn't use all of those bits. It seems to chop off numbers, not too sure why. So there's a lot of values and maxes I still have yet to test around with. But that's yet to come in future releases. The effect power can either help or hurt your monsters depending on their attribute, so we'll just mess with that for now. And then let's go over the red and blue sides real fast. So for each red and blue side, you have different monster lineups. So to kind of demonstrate that, let's do Dark Fire Dragon for that one. And for this one, we will choose a random monster. If it has unsupported, it just means that it wasn't supported in the main game. Each monster in this list does work in the game. Just unsupported in parentheses like that just indicates that it wasn't originally available if you play the base game. In Joey's situation, you can edit the levels on both the red and blue side. If we go over to Duke, for instance, we jump over to his blue side, we're going to notice that it's grayed out. That's because you can only allocate one set of levels, which will affect both blue and red sides. And what do I mean by red and blue sides? Typically, when you play, Duke is a unique situation. We'll get back to him in a second. Typically, when you go first, you're always going to face against the red side. But if you go second, you have the opportunity to go on one side of the field or the other. In this case, the way I set this up is red side is typically, if you stick with the default side, it starts red. But if you scroll over to the opposite side of the board, it's blue for a moment. Depending on the side you choose, these are the monsters you're going to face. The red side almost always is default unless you're up against Duke, who has a unique situation where his default side is blue. A little confusing, but that's the case there. And if you choose levels on this side, when you hit modify, it's going to affect both sides. Okay, so let me show how this actually works, how all this kind of comes together. So we have 2 options down here. Finally, I have enabled the apply all. I'll go over that in a quick second. If I hit modify, what that's going to do is it's going to apply everything that I entered in this entire tab, the opponents tab, and only this tab. It's not going to do anything with randomizer. So we're going to hit modify. The first time you modify something, it's going to take a little bit of time. There we go. And the reason why is it's creating a backup. But a new feature in this one is a backup will only be created if a backup doesn't exist. So if I modify again, it's going to go much faster. So let's go and change this to Dragon Piper, for instance. And if I hit modify, it's going to go much quicker just because it doesn't have to create that backup. So it'll always create a clean backup. And if it notices that one exists, it's going to skip that phase. That typically is why things went a little slow in the past. We're going to come back to this tab in a second because you can use it in a number of different ways. In my case, it goes a little slow. I don't know if it's settings on my part, but Windows applications seem to be a little janky on my computer. Maybe if I jump over to Windows 11, it'll be different, but I'm trying to avoid that for now. Anyway, all right, so let's go over to the randomizer side. I'm going to go through this kind of quick. A lot of the stuff here isn't too different, but you're going to notice some options have been moved. So for instance, here you have a smaller set of options. Many of them have jumped over to the options tab here. Now, it was suggested to me to move these options because it was confusing. They thought it only applied to just randomization. But no, these are more general options here. So if we go into the opponent's options, you're going to notice that none of these really have anything to do with randomization. For instance, maxing out opponent's AP, not a randomizing option. So I put it into this main options section. So you have max out opponent's AP, disable opponent interruptions. That's where they're not, like, jumping in while you're taking a long time on your turn saying, hey, hurry up. You can match the opponent unit count. That basically is if the opponents are only going to place 6 capsules, and that's all you can place. Remove max MP allows you to use as much MP as you like, and remove AP limit maxes out the AP to 999. That applies for both you and the opponent, I believe. There's another option in Randomizer where it does max out. Actually, you know what? No, that is both, actually. Yeah. Remove AP is for both you and the opponent as well. And then, okay, so I do get a lot of questions about what does turn off tooltips do. If I deselect it, it makes those little bubbles appear that tell you what these are in case you're not watching this video. If you click on that, it turns them off. So there you go. Okay, so going back to Randomizer, a couple new features that I put in is the ability to change the health or randomize the health of the symbol. And of course, the effect power has been there for a while, but you can go play around with this. The health allows you to go all the way up to 9,999. And you can basically force it to that if you like, if you don't feel like going through the opponent's tab, where all the opponents of Area 1 are going to have 9,999. 99. You can also set this to 0 if you like. The way that works is the symbol won't destroy it right away. It's just that any attack will destroy it, even if the attack is 0, I believe. Smart symbol types will make sure that when a symbol attribute is given to an opponent or randomized, it will make sure that. Oh, I'm actually explaining this incorrectly. What it'll do is it will base the symbol type based off the majority attribute of monsters the opponent has. And that goes for both sides. The way to avoid having too many attribute monsters on one side and less on another side, and the symbol type doesn't really seem to have a stronger effect on both sides, is to synchronize monsters where both the red and blue sides have the exact same monsters. If you want both sides to have a unique lineup, you deselect that, and when it does the randomization, it'll randomize both sides. Avoiding duplicate monsters will make sure that opponents will always have one of each monster, and no two opponents will share the same monster. It'll be unique monsters across the whole board. It's great if you want a completely unique game when going from Area 1 all the way to Area 5. Most of this is straightforward. Your opponents are going to randomize their units and their symbols if you like. And you can set those bounds here. 15 is the highest. However, at least for now, however, you can reach 255, which makes the monsters incredibly strong. The reason why I don't have that supported here is because say you set the level to 16, it will actually start a cycle where it'll go to level 0, which is also a supported level. So it's kind of weird. Not all levels work. So 16, 17, 18, 19 are just a mirrored effect as 1, 2, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Only some levels seem to have some kind of support where it actually makes the monster stronger. It's a little odd. I still need to test a lot on this to see which levels are unique to one another, and then I can put those supported levels in. I just haven't found them all. I just know 255 for sure works, makes the monsters pretty much impossibly strong. Unless the symbol type is against them, then it makes them impossibly weak, actually, which is an interesting thing. Okay, so these are pretty straightforward as well, and a lot of great features that I like to use. You can include unsupported monsters, you can include unsupported attack patterns, unsupported movement patterns, and I'll go a little bit over what that means in a second. You can omit fusions from the shuffle and evolutions. In other words, opponents won't have evolutions or fusions in their lineups. You have to actually create them, and I'll also omit them from the shop as well. You can shuffle classes, which actually I don't think really makes much of a difference. I haven't really played around with that enough. I mean, I always select it, but I haven't really compared to know if that actually makes any effect on their stats. But of course, there is shuffle attributes, which does have a massive impact on the game. You can do it evenly, which means that there's going to be even amount of, or close to even amount of monsters under each attribute. I split them up into groups of 25. I think that's the most even it gets, depending on if you include unsupported monsters or not. It's different for each. It's been a while since I looked at that code, but it works very well. We went over symbol. We're going to jump over to shop, and I'm going to explain what these mean in just a second. Well, actually right now. What am I saying? So unique monsters, what that does is it makes sure that the shop doesn't have duplicate monsters for a particular area. This doesn't work across areas for a number of reasons, and it mostly is because how the shop works. But what I mean is in area 1, you're not going to get duplicate monsters in the shop. And you may get duplicate areas between new monsters that arrive between area 1 and 2, but when new monsters are brought into the shop from area 2, they're not going to be duplicates for area 2, if that makes sense. You might get, 2 monsters between area 1 and 2 that are the same, but when new monsters come in, they're all going to be unique monsters to one another. And then affordable shop is a pretty important feature, but I'm not too sure it's really well explained here. So what this is indicating is at the beginning of the game, you can allocate a certain amount of MP to yourself. And this is the minimum amount of MP if you're not using starter kits. The minimum amount of MP you need to give yourself in order to ensure that you'll have 10 monsters, which is required to get past that startup phase of the game. If you don't have 10 monsters or you soft lock yourself, you can't proceed through the beginning part, and you're forced to use starter kits. So affordable shop will avoid that from happening. So depending on what you put in here, the higher amount you have, the stronger monsters you're going to get. The lower amounts, you're going to get cheaper monsters. This is the amount that you must allocate yourself in order to ensure that you're going to get 10 monsters at the start of the game. Personally, I find this option really good to use if you want a big challenge. So the higher you make this, the least amount of points or less amount of points you're going to be able to allocate to your symbols, health, or AP. If you really, really want a challenge, then you would want to, well, it depends. I think more in the center, it's easier. If you put in a higher MP, it can be kind of easy. But if you want a challenge, you put a low MP. Actually, if you don't want your symbol to have a strong effect on your monsters, like having a strong effect or a higher AP, setting this to a higher amount could be a good challenge. Because even though you can afford stronger monsters, you have less AP to use to control monsters. So typically when I want a good challenge, I set this pretty high. That way I'm forced to put all of the points towards MP, if that makes sense. Okay, and then we're going to randomize right now, and we're going to see once we randomize, we can actually look at our effects in the opponent area or our results. So see, now if we go to Joey, we're going to see that all this is shuffled, even the levels. I don't really recommend that you do this just because it's better to kind of have a new experience than to see what's coming. This can be, this could kind of spoil some things for you. But for the demonstration of this video, I'm showing that you can actually review the different changes applied from the randomizer over here. Wow, that is pretty high. I must have, let's see, if we go to symbols, yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's because of these right here. I put it between 0 and 9,999. Okay, so another thing that I want to go over real fast is, let's first deselect a couple things, is the Apply All button. So we're going to go into the opponents here, and I'm going to just put in a bunch of random values. And how Apply All works is it's going to apply first the Opponents tab, then the Randomizer, then the Options. So you can set all your different options in one shot, hit Apply All, and it'll apply everything that you've done except for the Monsters tab. We'll go over that in just a second. Eventually this will work differently, but it's going to take some time. The way I'd like it to work is, anytime you make a change, the randomizer will not overwrite that change, but that's going to take some time. And that's how Apply All will work, is it'll apply everything, but it will not overwrite any changes that you made in the opponent's tabs. That way you can basically make a bunch of changes in the opponent's area, randomize whatever you didn't change, and keep the changes you made. For now, it's got to work where it's going to apply this, and then the randomizer may overwrite that. It was just a liberty I had to take, because if you do it the other way, where you do the randomizer first and then apply this, this will actually undo anything the randomizer does. So a little bit more work on that, but the Apply All is now enabled. And I think for some people, depending on what they randomize, they may find a lot of value in this option. So let's move on to the Monsters tab, which is the newest tab. And I'm really excited about this because there is a lot of new stuff here, and this works great. Okay, so I'm not sure, since this is going a little long, but I may be repeating myself here. But basically, if I haven't mentioned already, when you first apply any of these tabs, the application will create a backup, a clean backup, if it doesn't exist already. And that takes a little bit of time. But any time after the backup does exist, it'll run really fast. Eventually, I'm going to put in the options, the option to not include a backup if you don't want it, if you don't want to use up that space. And that will keep the randomizer or modifier going at a pretty good rate no matter what. Anyway, so the way this tab works, and we're going to test out some of this in just a second, is it allows you, since I randomized movement, unsupported movement, we're going to see it already has applied to the monsters. So see, you can actually see how the monsters have been affected. I also randomized attribute, and there you have it. So now Happy Lover is a thunder. We're going to actually make Happy Lover a dark, and we're going to give Happy Lover a ton of boosts here. It's going to become a masterpiece that's going to destroy everything. I'm going to make the MP 0, so that way it's free to use. And I'm going to set the AP to 0 as well, and set this to 1000. Unfortunately, special abilities is not supported yet. It's going to take some time for me to do that. There's a lot of data I need to collect, and there's a lot of testing that needs to be done. So bear with me on that one. One thing I forgot to mention I'm really excited about is the fact that there is images for all monsters. It took me a little bit of time to create, but they are all there. The capsule data will update as you select it. We're going to make Happy Lover have an S rank. And so what capsule data is in the rank is this is the rank that the monster has when they're inside the capsule. So as long as Happy Lover is in the capsule, she will have 200 health and she'll have 20 defense. The AE rate is basically how the symbol, landform, and map is going to affect them. This can either help or hurt the monster. Since I'm making it dark and I usually use the dark attribute, we're going to set this pretty high. Landform, I guess I'll just keep that there. This I'll set to 100. And just to be clear, this is all base stats at level 1. Things change when the monster levels up. Eventually, I'll add a new tab to edit the actual leveling up tables for each attribute. Each attribute levels up in a consistent way. And so depending on the attributes and the level they're at, it's going to have some kind of impact on these base stats. But this is the stats that this monster will have at level 1. Okay, so another new feature we have is the movement pattern. And all movement, even the unsupported movement, is all supported here and works. So we're going to give it some unique movements. I'm going to give her, well, she already has that. Let's do that. Why not? And believe it or not, and it is supported, typically the attack patterns are smaller than the movement patterns. However, you can have her movement go up to 4 spaces, or excuse me, you can have her attack reach 4 spaces away, just like the movement pattern. Those are supported even with diagonal. So there you go. They won't show up in the compatibility, I think that's what it is, or compatibility, excuse me, menu. It won't show up there, but it will show up when you hover your cursor over the monster. It'll show, attack 4. So these are supported. When you select the monster, you'll see it as well. Okay, so we're going to go and apply this. Now, one thing I definitely need to let you know is these settings are not saved. So if I was to switch to another monster, any changes I made will be lost. So make sure that you modify the monster when you're done before you move on to the next one. That's important, or else your change will be lost. Nice and quick, we'll jump over to Skeletal real fast. Skeletal, here we go. And then we'll jump over to Happy Lover to show that all the changes I made have been saved. Let's also edit this guy real fast to just show how quick this is. This is actually in order. You're going to notice that this bigger pattern is first before this smaller pattern here. The reason why it's like that is because I ordered this by the order it shows up in the game. They're ordered this way for some reason. The game overall was incomplete, hence why some characters... Oh, that is something I forgot to mention. We'll have to jump over that in just a second. I actually didn't go over that. We'll go back to opponents real fast. We'll jump over to Duke. And one thing you're going to notice, for some of the players' levels, they're grayed out. Just like that. However, Tristan's, when I go to the blue area, they're not. As I was mentioning, the game, when it was released, is incomplete. There was a lot that the developers wanted to put in, but it was clear that they had to cut development short. So Joey and Tristan have unique levels for both the blue and red areas. However, most opponents like Duke and Taya, give it a second, don't. So whatever changes to the levels you do in the red area will also affect the blue area. There's only one set of levels that'll dictate both color regions. If I mentioned that, I'm sorry, but there's kind of a repeat recap there on how that works. So it was very clear that they had a lot of plans for different movement patterns. There's even movement patterns that go even beyond this, but they're not supported at all. When I use them, it just basically makes the monsters move nowhere. You can't even move. It's just 0. You get a really interesting looking pattern. It looks really cool, but they just don't work, unfortunately. So maybe someday, if possible, I can re-enable those in the actual physical game, so that way we can have all sorts of unique monsters moving in all unique ways. Okay, so let's apply this real fast. I may have already, there we go, applied that. Okay, so we made a lot of changes. Some stats in case you're interested in that. The total number of shuffles made, power-ons that I've done, mods I've made, monsters modified. Did quite a lot of testing on that. And we will apply all just real fast, just so that way you can see all this change in real time. And there you go. So a lot of this probably overwritten a lot of the randomization. Actually, the randomization didn't change because that's right, the seed is the same. So let's go change the seed, apply all, so that way these actually change. There we go. There's some changes. There we go. So yeah, the seeds don't change. I left it like that in case you want to stick to the same seed but make additional adjustments, or re-randomize an ISO, or randomize multiple ISOs. All right, so that's that. Let's run the game real fast. So this is the copy, and show some of the changes that were made. Now, one bit of warning I do need to give is that you don't want to run the randomization or modifier or anything while the game is running. So what PCSX does is it puts an ISO that you're running in a read-only mode. And so when this tries to change something, it will crash because it's trying to change something that's being blocked. All right, so hang on, I'm trying to run the emulator. With all the recent updates that the PCSX has been going through, I've noticed it's kind of had some janky performance on my half, so just give me a little bit of time right now. It seems to be taking a little bit of time. It was happening earlier too, where games were taking a little while to load up. Sometimes they take 3 seconds, and sometimes, like it's doing right now, it's taking its time. Here we go. It's asking if I want to add a new hash. No, and here we go. I should have audio going through. Yep, okay. All right, so I typically, for testing, I like to choose, oh yeah, controller's acting weird again. That's another weird thing that's been going on. I typically like to go and choose Pegasus because he seems to have the least amount of audio, or I mean, least amount of opening text. Seems to go the quickest. Yep, so I went pretty quick. All right, perfect. So this is what I'm talking about by red and blue areas. So you're gonna be facing off against his red area if you choose up here. And we are going to go pick some Happy Lovers at 0 MP. Look at that health, that is insane. Doesn't matter where they are, and they are dark, so they're definitely gonna get some kind of bonus. This is gonna be great. And not only that, they're easy to hatch and easy to move, because I don't think they take any AP. Oh, there's an invisible monster. Is that ancient elf? Getting on the mouse, or the controller's getting a little nuts again. There we go. It must be a high level there too. Okay, let's summon that one. And that one. Okay, let's see. Yeah, look at those stats, insane. Oh yeah, that's right, I randomized everything. Shoot. So now her movement's really low. Oh well. That's fine. We can't be too powerful. Oh no, they're both diagonals. Shoot. Oh, this could take a long time. Well, anyway, that's kind of the gist of it. I want to get at least one attack in. Let's see if they... There we... No, I'm not going to be able to hit him. Well, there. Now you can see my dramatic defense there. I think I can get this one. Is this going to be a one-hit kill? Yep, you know it. Okay, there we go. That should be good enough. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. There's a lot of exciting things that are happening. Oh, you know what? There's one last thing I want to go over real fast. Let's go pause this. All right, so my name. If you click on my name, they'll actually take you to the GitHub page. And it's loading up right now. It'll take you to the GitHub page, so that way you can get the latest updates. There you go. 2.3 hasn't been uploaded yet, but I'm in the process of doing so. By the time this video goes live, it'll be up and live. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're playing. Let me know if you're streaming, because I'd love to watch your stream. Other than that, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.